Everybody, I'm getting crafty again with you guys today. Now today we are talking about Halloween. We are now in October and Halloween is getting closer and closer, which I'm very excited about because I love Halloween. I'm a big kid. So normally as a family, me and Al, we would put out a pumpkin and we would get a big bowl of sweets ready for the guys to come and trick or treat. Unfortunately this year that's not going to be able to happen because of coronavirus. Now, a lot of children were really upset and devastated about this. So as a village, we've come together and we've thought of a new plan. So instead of having pumpkins necessarily outside our front door, we have got creative and we are making pictures to sit in our windows. This being that when the children are off school or of an evening, they can walk around the village, they can spot all the different pumpkins in windows and make it into a bit of competition for them. So they can see how many they can spot in and around the village, and it makes it a bit more exciting for them, and they still get to go out and see everybody's decorations. So me and Al have decided to do 3. I say me now, I've done them. I love it, so I'm more than happy to do that. So the first one that I've done, I've already painted so you guys can see what I'm actually talking about. So the first one that I've done is I've done a pumpkin, okay, and it's got a skull in the middle. So this is Al's one. Al is the male skull and he needs to think of a name because all the pumpkins that we make have to be named. So Al needs to think of a name for his skull pumpkin. The next one that I'm planning on doing is my one, and it's a skull candy lady. So she's been drawn out but she hasn't been painted yet. So that's next on the to-do list later on. Now the one that I want to do with you today is a little bit easier. It's going to be a greyhound because obviously me and Al, we have our lovely Rootsy and we want him to be part of the family and be part of this. So we have mine and Al's pumpkins and then we're going to have a Rootsy pumpkin. So I've drawn out a basic sketch outline of what I want to paint. So without further ado, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to turn the camera around so you guys can see what I've drawn out and then we'll get some painting done. Here is the outline. So I've got a outline of a greyhound, a bat, and then really finally I have an outline of a pumpkin that I have drawn on, just like the other 2. So for me to be able to paint these, I've got a various amount of paintbrushes, all different sizes. I've then got paint everywhere, and then to make an orange, because I haven't had an orange, I mixed yellow and red together in this bowl. I've got water in this one to clean my brushes, and in this one I've got a mixture of different paints. So I've got the black for the silhouettes and the black outlines. I've then got the browns and the yellows and oranges just to sort of mix in with the pumpkin to give it more of a feel and a texture, because if not it would just be one block colour and wouldn't look particularly great. So let's get painting. Okay, so I'm set up. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the top of the pumpkin, okay? So for the top of the pumpkin, I'm going to use the browns and the orangey, grey colours. So I've got quite a fine paintbrush to start with. It's quite watery because my paintbrushes have just been washed, but that's not a problem, we can mix that in. So all I'm doing is just doing a basic brown coat all over. Okay, so as you can see, I have now done the top bit of the pumpkin, so the stalk, in a dark brown. Now just to get a bit more texture in it and to then get the lines back, I'm going to use, it's like an orangey brown colour. Just to get a bit more texture back into the painting. And there it is. Stalk done, easy peasy. So what next I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the outline of the pumpkin with the orange. So I've got quite a thick brush here, and it's just going to do the outline of the pumpkin in the orange. So these strips here are going to be quite a dark orange with a little bit of brown mixed in, and then as I move into the pumpkin it's going to get lighter with yellow around. So I've got my pre-mixed orange and I'm just going to slap it on. So if you would look at a normal pumpkin, you would see the lines on the pumpkin all around it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create those lines from the stalk sort of around the pumpkin to make that rounded shape. So I'm going to get my fatter paint brushes, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the brown paint again, mix it with a little bit of black. I'm just going to draw those lines on. Making sure that we're curved because we want the pumpkin to look round. Hasn't got to be neat at this point because we're going to blend it all in to give it texture. Okay, so we've got our black lines there, and then we're just going to get a little bit of brown with a light brown and a dark brown mixed together. And we're just going to really gently blend bits in. Add a little bit of water to your brush. We're just creating a blend because we don't want it to be just blended in with some light browns and dark browns. Now what we need to do is copy it on the other side exactly the same. So we're going to do a blot orange, then our black and brown lines, and then blend in. Okay, so there we have it. We have both sides blended together to give that pumpkin sort of spooky feel to it. What we need to do now is I'm just going to have to sit and wait for it to actually dry, because if not we don't really want the black then blending in with the bright orange that's going to be in the centre. So we're just going to have to sit and wait for this to dry, and then once it's dry we can then do the centre. Okay, so I've waited about sort of 10-15 minutes to try and get the majority of the paint dried. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go focus on the centre. So again, with the bright orange paint, we're going to do all the centre, okay? Obviously not colouring in the dog or the bat, okay? Because they are going to be completely black as a silhouette. So all I'm going to do is just very gently going to go around and just put in the orange paint all around the centre. Being really careful not to go over around the darker silhouettes that we're going to have. So around the silhouette bits, we're just going to add a little bit of yellow to make it lighter, so the silhouette stands out even better. And then we just carry on with our chunky orange, filling it all in. Okay, so now the main bulk of the orange has been done, and I'm just touching up around the silhouettes with a really small brush just to get the last little bits that need filling in. And then we need to sit and wait again for this to dry, because we don't then want the orange and the black to mix together. So we'll then sit, wait for this to dry, and then we can fill in the black of the silhouette. Okay, so the majority of this painting is now complete and it's drying nicely. So the last little bit that we need to do is fill in the bat and the dog with some black paint. Now this bit does take the longest, because you want this to be the neatest part of the painting. Okay, so I've got put some more black paint in my dish, and I've got the smallest paintbrush that I have, and I'm going to really delicately go around and just fill in the bat. Okay, so my bat is now filled in, and now we've got to do the dog. So this is the biggest part. So I suggest that we go around the whole of the edge of the dog first in the black, and then fill the centre in with black paints at the end, because if not you might lose the shape. Okay, so there we have our final part of the pumpkin. Just filling in little bits if we've missed any. Filling in little gaps. And there we have our final pumpkin. I hope you really enjoyed that pumpkin demonstration. Here is the final piece. So here is our pumpkin with our black dog and bat silhouette. Yay! I'm going to go for a break and a cup of tea, and then I can get on with my final piece, and then I will make sure that I show you guys my final piece when everything is completed. Cheers guys! Okay, so it's taken me just over 3 hours, but the pumpkins are complete. So there is my scary, witchy, crazy lady, the greyhound, and the skull pirate. Phew.